Hi, everybody. I'm Barbara Peters, and today I'm going to talk about three key components to enjoying optimal vocal health as we age. I'll talk about maintaining a healthy body and a healthy voice, cultivating a healthy mind and outlook, and I will offer up some tools to maintain both, whatever your chronological age. So the first part of this lecture is the not so fun stuff. It's the part that I call the sobering facts. I'm now a woman in her early 70s. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about today, I am experiencing firsthand or have worked with a number of adults in my age bracket that are being challenged by the many changes we face as we age. So let's talk first about hormones. The hormonal changes of our endocrine systems can affect the fluid levels in tissues below the larynx. Extra fluid can cause vocal folds to change in shape and mass, causing effortful and less efficient sound making or phonation. Hormonal changes can also impact the pitch of our voices. For women, typically our voices drop in pitch. For men, voices tend to rise in pitch. Muscle tone. Muscle tone as it applies to the intrinsic or the internal muscles of the larynx, the many sets that work together with cartilages of the larynx to allow vocal function to happen, and the extrinsic muscles, so those that are outside the larynx, along the neck, swallowing muscles. We'll look at these more in a moment. Loss of muscle tone in both of these areas also can impact the efficiency of phonation. Thyroid. Low thyroid function can cause hoarseness, vocal fatigue, a muffled quality sometimes, loss of range. You might even notice a lump, the feeling of a lump in your throat. Respiratory function. Reduction in function here can be due to just shrinkage of the thorax cavity, a rigid or stiff rib cage, weakness of the musculature here. I think you all know that we have muscles in between our ribs, and when these either atrophy or become less elastic, I guess I'll say, you'll notice you don't have quite the same capacity in your rib cages as you used to. And then lastly, lung elasticity can be lost. A not so fun fact here, starting at 30, 5% of our vital lung capacity is diminished every 10 years. Also, it's as early as 30 years old. Laryngeal function, in other words, how well the larynx works to produce sound, that can diminish due to ossification and calcification of the cartilages in the larynx. There are three main ones that are concerned here, and we're going to see those in a moment on the screen: thyroid, cricoid, arytenoid cartilages. All three of these work together in the larynx to allow your vocal folds to function and make the very many sounds that we can make. The membranes surrounding these cartilages can atrophy, and they can also grow more swollen and thicker. Secretion of all the mucous membranes around the vocal folds decrease. So let's just take a quick look at these cartilages. Okay, so here we are looking at the larynx front and back. You'll see the three that I was just talking about. This is the thyroid. It's where men can feel their Adam's apple right there. Cricoid, which is below it. And then if you look at the posterior view, these little pyramid looking like structures are the arytenoids, and they are actually attached to the vocal folds, and they pivot in order to allow the folds to work. So those three porous cartilages tend to calcify and then ossify, meaning they become less porous and more solid, which of course becomes less flexible altogether. So here's a side view, and then each component is separate. So here's what the thyroid cartilage looks like, which houses the folds. There are your little arytenoids, which are inside at the back of the thyroid cartilage, and then the cricoid, which is below. So those are the three main working components of our larynxes. What we don't see here are the folds, but this little vocal ligament pointing to this, that's where the folds are. And the arytenoids are attached to them, and they are then attached to the thyroid cartilage. So monitor how you use your voice, when you use your voice, for how long you use your voice, and in what range you use your voice. We don't have any control over our chronological age, but we can maintain and improve our psychological age with a positive outlook, positive psycho-emotional health. We also can improve our biological age with proper nutrition, exercise, and the 3 R's: rest, relaxation, and recreation. Take care of your bodies. For starters, monitor what you eat, how much, and when. Minimize your salt and sugar intake. Alcohol, caffeine, and smoking are deterrents to healthy vocal function. Late night eating and drinking can cause digestive tracts to release gastric, hydrochloric acid into the esophagus and laryngeal areas. Acid reflux and GERD, which stands for gastroesophageal reflux disease, can be the result of late night eating and drinking. Regular physical exercise enhances blood and oxygen flow throughout the body. Aerobic exercise in particular enhances both to the brain. Regular water intake maintains healthy vocal fold lubrication. Here I go. You want to try to maintain a 40 to 50% level of humidity in your homes and workspaces if possible. Wash your hands often, which by now surely has become habitual for all of us. Find ways to reduce tension and stress in your lives and in your bodies. Some suggestions: meditation, some yoga, Tai Chi, reading, walking, restorative quiet times, replenishing activities. Monitor your speaking voices by speaking in a comfortable pitch zone and at comfortable volumes. Avoid environments with overpowering ambient noise, or learn how to use your voices, how not to use your voices in such situations. I've said this and I'll say it again: sing in an appropriate range and monitor duration and vocal stamina. Recognize your own vocal parameters. Sing and speak in moderation. Listen to your voice inwardly and outwardly. Vocal endurance varies from individual to individual. What you can manage might be very different from what the person right next to you in a rehearsal can manage. Keep the focus on you and your voice. Know how to take care of it. The more one uses one's voice, the more wisely and economically it must be used. As a lot of you know, I served on Berkshire's voice faculty for many years, which meant coming to the Berkshires for as few as 3 and as many as 6 weeks. Sometimes I was sent to off-campus locations for a week or 2 at a time. My responsibilities were, of course, to sing in the rehearsals, to sing on the faculty recitals, to teach classes, to lead sectional rehearsals, to lead master classes, to teach one-on-one private voice lessons. And we were also asked to socialize at meals, sitting at very long cafeteria tables, and to socialize during cocktail hour. So yeah, that's a lot of voice use. I figured out that I could not carry all of that for 6 weeks without careful management. I figured out in the rehearsals that I needed to lead when my soprano section needed guidance and help with a particular phrase or phrases. But by the 5th or 6th time we were rehearsing it and the sopranos had it together, I mouthed the text, kept my eyes on the music, my eyes on the conductor, but I didn't sing it for the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time. Tried to, in speaking situations, tried to talk to the people who were closest to me, tried to keep the volume manageable, which is pretty hard in that very large cafeteria. And most importantly, when I wasn't visible, in other words, in my dorm room or on a day off where I was quietly doing my laundry or shopping or taking time for my own private yoga routine, I was silent. The vocal rest component became incredibly important. If you are in a profession that requires you to use your voice all the time, you need to find times to rest your instrument, to not talk, to just quietly chill. The more you use your voice, the more you need to rest it. That's kind of how that equation goes. Okay, we're going to have a little short look at my larynx in operation. 4 years ago or so, after a week working for Berkshire in Asheville, North Carolina, I noticed that my voice was particularly tired. It was like a little hole in my range. And I thought, let's get this checked out. So I went to see a speech pathologist at Wake University. And typically when you go to see an otolaryngologist and a speech pathologist, you get scoped. So they scoped me. You'll see in this little video what our larynxes do when we make sounds.
And it started. Let's go ahead and play.
And just hold out a comfortable E.
Good.
And alternate between an E and a sniff. Go E, E, E.
E, 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 E.
Good. And glide from high to low. E. Good. Again. Good. And then low to high. Good. And then I just want you to hold out an E, just a sung E with no vibrato in your modal pitch. Okay? Good. And then your high E, or about that high. Good. All right. And sing a little something that you're struggling with.
Vola, oh serenata, la mia diletta e sola.
And the
That's
having
okay.
that key, but that's the area where the sound is the weakest.
Okay. All right. All done.
So we'll continue now. Just a couple more things here about wisdom. Take some voice lessons if possible. It's never too late. If you're having voice difficulties, like I was having, seek professional help. See your local ear, nose, and throat, ENT, individual, or a speech pathologist, or an otolaryngologist. These are all people who can observe you and perhaps offer you guidance. Professional training and intervention is basically informative. And what we can gain from that information can help us maintain our voices. One last thing. Before any strenuous singing or talking, warm up your voices. Activate singers' breathing. We'll talk about that shortly. This focuses the brain as well as engages all the muscles with which we produce sound. It will enhance blood flow to the vocal folds to help us maintain consistent, efficient vocal fold function. Rest the voice after strenuous use. Singing is athletic. Regular practice produces positive results. That's the good news. Okay, so some goals. Why bother? Well, because we want some things from our voices. And here are some of the things that we can strive for. We are seeking a freely and consistently produced sound. We are wanting a sound that's pleasant to listen to. We want a sound that's present enough to be heard easily. We want a resonant sound. We want a sound that has enough energy flow from note to note, that our sound moves smoothly. We want a vibrant, dynamic, and alive sound. And we want our sounds to be flexibly expressive. What about our physiques? Well, here are a couple of drawings. On the left, you see two different stances. I think it's pretty obvious that the one on the very far left, where the body is slouched at the top and the knees are locked, is not as advantageous as this posture, where shoulders line up over the hips, knees are loose, torso is suspended or elevated, and the head is centered over the spine. If you must sit, you want to sit in this posture, where again, shoulders line up over the hips, head is centered, both feet on the floor, avoiding an arched back and a stiff neck and head, and avoiding a slouch forward, which usually means you're going to jut your chin. So you do want to think about your posture, your stance when you're standing as well as when you're sitting. You do want your rib cage to be suspended. In other words, lifted, not over lifted, not military lifted, but suspended. You want the back of your necks to be very long, not the front, the back. You want the feeling of having a book on your head. If you're doing this, obviously the book will slide off. Same thing if you're lifting your chin, okay? Take your breath in through your mouth as if at the beginning of a yawn. Feel your body expand around the middle as you take your air in And just as the torso feels full of air, suspend for a moment, then start the sound by thinking of it rather than effortlessly, physically pushing it. Keep that expansion around the middle of your body for the duration of your sound making. That's the key component for most singers, is to train the muscles of the rib cage and the back to maintain that open rib cage even as your air is being exhaled. Continuing with the singer's posture, let's get into some nitty-gritties now. Use a mirror. If you've got a full-length mirror, great. If you only have a mirror that does from here up, well, let's take it. Let's work with that. So you want to try to stand with your feet slightly apart, but underneath your hips. They can be parallel or they can be one in front of the other. You want the weight centered over the arches, maybe a little bit on the balls of the feet. You do want your knees to be loose, flexed, not locked if possible. Kind of springy, so lean into the balls of your feet. Your lower torso, your pelvis, instead of jutting it out behind you, tuck it slightly under. That's going to help you then elongate your spine. You want your shoulders to be open, not this, not that, this, relaxed and down, but open like a capital T. My yoga teacher says, lift your heart, lift up your heart. I offer that. You want long back of the neck, I've mentioned. You do want your head to feel centered, your chin relaxed, eyes eye level. So here are a couple of breathing exercises for you to try. Standing in this wonderful singer's posture, or if you're seated in singer's posture from your tailbone up, take your right hand and just place it over your waist. I don't know if you can see here, but I'm going to put mine right there so that the thumb is up in the upper abdominal area between the rib cage, and your little finger is, and your middle fourth and fifth fingers are in the lower abdominal area. The palm of your hand is kind of right over your belly button. So what we're going to try to do here is take some breaths. So when you inhale, we're looking for that entire middle area to expand outwards. So keeping your upper body like a museum bust. You want to try to activate from the middle of your body, using your hand with some pressure to breathe against. So the inhale is the expansion, the exhale is the contraction. And the contraction is abdominal. It is not everything shrinking down. This is the part that really challenges us to keep our rib cages open. So you can practice that kind of lateral moving, breathing with your hand there as a guide. On the exhale, try exhaling on an S or an F or a Z, something like zzz, for as long as you can, maintaining your open rib cage and maintaining a steady source of airflow. Offering a little bit of friction there slows the exhale down. Of course, it's more challenging when we're singing vowels. The goal here is to activate these lower abdominals. The next breath exercise you can do, which is kind of fun, is to pant like a dog. A little dog, a medium dog, big dog, doesn't really matter. Keep your hand in that same spot. But what you want to do now is to pant. So you're going to let your tongues relax out of your mouth or just relax in your mouth. And you're going to pant like a dog. And it will look. The inhale is the expansion. The exhale is the contraction. Vary it Try all three different kinds of dogs. But that's the action. Meanwhile, this upper body is quiet, calm, at rest. Your abs are working for you, keeping your singer's posture. Shallow breathing or clavicular breathing is a definite up-down vertical process, not advantageous. Why? You're only filling a portion of your lungs. You are missing the opportunity to bring your abdominals into the picture. Using those muscles is what controls how quickly and efficiently the diaphragm raises and lowers in order to bring air in and in order to control how much air is expended on the exhale. So really do try to focus your attention on lateral breathing. Your rib cage is designed to open in three directions: up, down, front to back, and side to side. Amazing. We're going to move on now to physical relaxation exercises. There are 6 areas to focus on. We want relaxed facial muscles for reasons of natural expression and ease of using the lips and the jaw to articulate our consonants and vowels. So you could be your own mini little massage therapist, taking your hands, using the fingertips, start at your hairline, right at the top of your face, and in circular motions with a little bit of weight, a little bit of pressure, not too much, but enough to release as you go by these areas. Work your hands down your face, along the hairline, over the temples, gently there. Then as you get to the jaw hinges, a little more pressure, and just let all of these areas let go as you maneuver. This is not cosmetic. This is really, this has got some pressure in it. Keep coming down over the chin, really move things around. Go back up to the cheekbone area, and especially make sure to get to your brow and your forehead, where I would say most of us tend to hold tension. I am guilty of lifting my eyebrows when I sing. Up. So that's an area I know I need to address. You're going to want your face to be as slack as possible while you do this. I can just let that jaw hang open. Next area, if you look at the drawing on the right, is the tongue. So stretching the tongue releases it from grabbing and tensing. We want a forward, down, and at rest tongue, which will allow for clarity in your vowel sounds. It also will allow an open space in the rear of your mouth, which we call the pharynx. In voice use, we want to avoid curling, pointing, retracting, narrowing, and bunching of the tongue. Those are all counterproductive. If you look at this drawing, you can see what a big muscle this tongue is. So we do want to minimize tension here as much as possible. How do we do that? Well, here are 2 suggestions. One is to extend the tongue firmly out of the mouth, hold it, release the hold, let it slowly slink back into the mouth. So I'll demonstrate. It's kind of funny looking, but you can try this with me. So you want to extend your tongue out hard. And release it back in. Try it again. Extend it out hard, hold, release the hold, and let it slink back in. So how it feels at the end. The other exercise, and both of these are effective, you can make your fingers into 2 little points, come just inside the chin bone, and with your mouth slack and open, just move your little steeple up into that area. Now, if you keep your fingers up in there and you swallow, you'll feel the movement of the muscle that is your tongue. Yeah, so the extension and the massage. You can use your thumbs also. It's really whatever works for you. You want to keep your jaw slack while you're working with the tongue. Okay, the swallowing muscles are next. They are the ones that are just here. They are under your chin, under your jawbone, connected to the jawbone. And relaxing these muscles allows the larynx to remain suspended. It enhances resonance in the mouth and the pharynx, the back of the throat, back of the mouth. It enables smooth transitions between registers and into the higher range. And freedom here allows ease of consonant articulation. Okay, so how do we relax this area? You're going to take your hands just inside the jawbone on either side. Jaws as loose as you can let it be. And you're going to sort of knead it like you're kneading bread. So it's a massage. You go up and out, each side. You can use your thumbs also, where you're basically moving them up inside. To get that area to let go. So the fourth area is the jaw itself. And you see all these pictures here of the muscles that are used to operate the jaw. So this is an area that's pretty tricky for folks, but if you could take a hold of your jaw, use your forefingers and your thumbs, and just get a grip. What we want to be able to do is open and close the jaw using your hands. So open, pull down, and close. No need to go beyond comfort zone. In other words, I don't want to encourage you to go beyond the hinge. We don't need that in singing, but we do need 2 fingers lined up one on top of the other worth of space in there. And if you can get this jaw to relax so that you can move it with your hands, not flexing, but open, close as freely as possible, you'll be amazed at the difference it'll make. So why do we work with releasing the jaw? This is area number 4. It will be able to drop with gravity without any resistance. It can create space in the mouth for resonance. It does create space to access your higher range. Every conductor will say, open your mouth. That's what they mean. Release the jaw. It will allow ease of inhalation so that you're not breathing through clenched teeth, but through that little surprise breath space. It allows for flexibility for articulation, and it helps maintain a natural low position of your larynx. A relaxed jaw automatically allows that larynx to stay suspended and low in the throat. Okay, number 5 is the larynx itself. So I think we all know that it's housed in this column of cartilages that you've seen. What you want to do is get your fingers on either side of the column and just gently, by relaxing your chin, move it, as you can see, gently side to side. You might feel a little clicking in here. Don't be alarmed. That's just cartilage kind of holding on. And working this will help free up that holding of those cartilages. There you go. So you see the larynx where it is in the throat. So you're essentially just moving it from side to side. You remember that photograph of the muscles of the neck? Those muscles are the strap muscles. This large muscle like this coming down the side, that's a strap muscle. And there's one on each side. Plus you have your swallowing muscles, which we've talked about already. These muscles, when they are tight, really do stiffen the larynx itself. You might notice in people when they use their voices forcefully, there's a lot of tension in the neck, or all that is tight. So you can work to release those muscles, massaging, and side to side stretching. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But you want the larynx ultimately to stay suspended in the throat. Why? So that your sound can be freely made, so that the folds can oscillate freely. That encourages a natural vibrato, a low position without rigidity is the best possible place for your larynx to be. So you see over here, balance point of head and neck, AO joint, the atlanto-occipital joint, which is kind of right there between the ears. So freeing your head and neck, probably the easiest little exercise you can do, and that is just to bob your head forward and back, easily. Mouth open as you go back. Don't go back all the way, not necessary. But the jaw open, that's good. That's needed. And then ear to the shoulder, not the chin, the ear. That is what is opening up your strap muscle on either side. Try not to let your shoulder hunch up to meet it, just like mine just did. Keep them both down and work for the ear to the shoulder. If we have tension in the neck muscles, sometimes it's to compensate for the lack of breath, strong breath management. Obviously, if you see someone like this with everything tight, it's going to impact the kind of sound you make. It will impact resonance. And if you happen to be one of those folks that likes to jut your chin forward, of course, your head is now out of alignment and your jaw is now no longer free to move flexibly. The pharynx is constricted if we've got tightness in our necks. Singing is typically effortful. Your range might be limited, and transitions between low, middle, and high voice will be impacted. So those are the 6 areas of physical relaxation that I recommend for you. We're getting now close to vocalizing time. I just have a few general tips about vocalizing in general. Sighing, humming, lip trills, which are hard for me. So I choose to roll an R, or raspberries. Using the NG sound, like singing, making sirens, connected to the air. These are all excellent sounds that you can use to begin to coordinate sound making with your airflow. If you use these, stay within a comfortable range, not too loud, but present enough to be heard. Keep it comfortable and have fun. When you get ready to actually sing vocalises, start with the simplest ones first and work your way up to the more challenging exercises. Start middle to low range, work out in either direction. Monitor how high or how low you go. You want the sound to be as free of tension and effort, negative effort, as possible. Of course, singing takes energy. It does take energy. It's athletic, remember? Conversational mezzo forte is plenty of intensity when you're vocalizing. About 10 to 15 minutes should be sufficient. Vary the vowels, play with your dynamics, and vary the exercises. You don't have to use the same ones every single time. Check all of the areas of relaxation we just talked about. Monitor your posture, monitor your breathing, keep your hands busy. KYHB, whether it's to. Yeah, check in all these areas of relaxation, or monitor your rib cage, what's happening there, or monitor your abdominals, what's going on there. Keep your hands busy. Keep your tongue, we've talked about this, but keep your tongue loose and forward in the mouth, up against the bottom teeth. If you remember conductor Robert Page, who worked with us many summers in the Berkshires, one of his favorite expressions was, keep that tongue velcroed to the back of your bottom teeth. Amen. Good advice. As you go higher in range when you're vocalizing, access the relaxation of your jaw. You do need to create more space as you sing higher pitches. Find the space inside your mouth as you go higher, so that you can add some fullness to the sound. You're essentially raising your soft palate. It's like the beginning of a yawn. Raising that palate lowers the back of the tongue also. Consider an oval shape rather than a horizontal shape in your singing. You want to try to work for a balanced resonance of brightness and fullness. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Stand when you vocalize, that's the best. If you have to sit, please engage your singer's posture from your tailbone up. Use a mirror. If you don't have a teacher handy, boy, a mirror is second best, truly. Don't forget to check all your areas of relaxation throughout vocalizing. Keep your hands busy, observe your posture, and engage your singer's breath. And now we will have time with observing me work with a singer. You have all the vocalizing exercises in the body of this lecture, pretty detailedly laid out for your own use, but you'll also be able to gather them as I now start to work with a singer. And then when we finish with that, there'll be a Q&A. Thank you for agreeing to do this. Do you do any other singing besides the Mendelssohn and your voice
for a
lessons?
good long while, I sang in a solo quartet at my synagogue at high holidays.
Okay.
But I had I've had problems a few times over the years with my vocal cords, not nodules, but nerve issues.
So talk to me a little bit about that. What brought on the issue, do you know, or was it just random?
Probably a virus.
Well, you have persevered.
This is the main application of my life, and so I've never wanted to give it up. Yeah.
Okay.
So, that's me.
So, speaking voice wise, is this your normal speaking voice?
It is when I feel pressured, like and so
Okay.
I don't know you, so I'm speaking too quickly and not as carefully.
Because,
So
I,
I'll sing.
I am a voice therapist on the other side of the coin.
Right.
So I'm just going to ask you to make sure you've got some water handy.
I do.
Excellent. And when you can think about it, to just allow your voice to, as you say,
That'll
settle down a little bit, maybe find a little bit of a higher pitch center to work in.
I get you.
It would just be the pressure behind it that then I would say if you can just bring more air into your sound
right.
more
That
of
would
the
be
time, it wouldn't be quite as pressed like this,
Yes,
for
right.
example.
You're right.
But you know all this, so I
do,
don't
but
really
thank you
need to
for-
go there.
Thank you for mentioning.
Okay, to start with, typically I just ask people to release any holding or tension, and that would be done by stretching. So whatever you like to do
Mhm.
to reach particularly up and out, shoulder work, head rolls, letting that head really sort of be like a bowling ball to roll around. Just take it all the way in one direction, for example, and let your mouth be open as you go back, Roberta. That's it. Just keep it, and good for you. And then the other way around also. Mouth open so we don't pull on the jaw or the larynx in that case. I'm sure your number of your professional guiders have talked to you about your tongue as well.
Right.
Yeah, allowing plenty of freedom there. And then the jaw and all the muscles along the jaw, as well as, yes, indeed. So you're already familiar with this, which is great. Being able to move that larynx just gently side to side. Okay, good. I think you're standing, correct?
Yeah.
Just keep your knees kind of loose. You're going to take your lower torso, your hips, and have that sense of tucking it forward, tucking it under, so that your rear end is not out behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that sense of lift right up your spine, right up to the crown of your head, as if you're on a marionette string. That's a great place to kind of settle into.
Mhm.
Your shoulders to me look beautifully open. So breath-wise, and I'm sure you're already familiar with all of that, it's the center of the body we're activating, not the upper body. This remains like a museum bust. So all that in and out is happening right at the waist level. It does require abdominals to kind of kick out of the way and extend when you take that inhale. But that's where your energy management is going to be. For first sound making exercises, let's try just doing a couple of sighs. So that breath will come in the way you always take it, through the mouth preferably, and then starting at a reasonably high place, letting that air come down. Yeah. So one of the things that happens to us as we age is the lower range tends to either disappear or click into a chestier quality of sound. So that it doesn't happen so involuntarily is to use the oo vowel. So if we were we would be able to bring that down a little farther.
Yeah, I've been working on that, and my teacher has been great at helping with the middle. My singing middle is there.
Slow it down so that so it's in kind of slow motion. That really brings you through that area. Yes, exactly right.
Almost.
Because that's when you'll use the whole air, you'll use the whole breath and stay connected vocally all the way down. It isn't really necessary for you to go into chest area. It's key to keep it in the head voice quality for as long as you can.
Right.
Let's try doing a hum, just on a 5-note pattern. Really loose jaw, your lips are barely touching, so there's no tension here at the hinge. Okay. Yeah, good. Now you can relax your eyebrows. I do that too. You know, that sort of lifting thing. Just
Right.
easy, relaxed face all throughout. We're going to do one more here. Yeah, good. Better with the eyebrows. So that facial tension,
Yeah.
that's another area we want to settle in. How about we try this now in either a raspberry or a lip trill, whichever you prefer. I like to do because it's the freest. It's the freest of them all. But some people really like to do a lip trill, and some people will
Easier.
roll an R. So I leave the choice up to you. Get a good breath. Okay, good, Roberta. So when you take your breath, keep yourself grounded so that shoulders and upper body do not lift. Really think about a sort of a, I can't remember, a bellows that we used to use in front of fireplaces, you know, with that accordion, except this way. So that when you do take that breath in, you're expanding just below breast area, so that this is always very level, very quiet, and not part of a lift, which is why I suggest to people to take the air through the mouth, so that there's always this sort of jaw-dropping moment. Air comes in that way and is pulled low. Okay, so we're going to switch now to singing literally on mi, me, ma, mo, mu, and we're going to just do it on one note. So I'm going to start you on a G. So the breath will come in through the mouth, and then it'll be mi, me, ma, mo, mu. That's all. Through the mouth, open. Mi, me, ma, mo, mu. Good. It's really a very clear sound. There's a little tiny bit of noise at the end, and that could be air, and that could be you need lubrication. So I'm going to suggest you take a sip of water.
It's both, probably.
Let's try a simple 5-note pattern, and let's try it from here to here, doing that way. And we're going to use so it's an ooey, 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 ooey. We're looking for minimal tension and a very sort of forward through a somewhat puckered embouchure. Just keep trying to remember that breath through the open mouth. Good. Relax those eyebrows, let the forehead go absolutely limp. That's okay. It's my job to remind you. So don't worry. If I say it 20 times, that's fine. Okay, good. So we're going to go a little lower, and this is going to be a little bit of a zone for you. So I'll suggest that you bring that sound into a more nasally place. Without extra pressure. No extra pressure, but a little nasalier, if I could use a word. Yes, exactly. And that'll keep it in head territory without your having to press into the sound.
Right.
Good. I'm glad that works for you. 2 more. Pretty good. You got a little dark. So that did require extra weight. So what if we just imagined like a little 10-year-old snotty little girl nya, 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 going into that place.
Okay.
Yes, right. And keeping space. Don't let your teeth get too close together. This is the last one we're going to do. Yes. So that's your middle C. So
Okay.
good advice for us who are aging, men and women actually, is to sort of tap into a nasalier resonance to get into those lower staff areas of our range, rather than cavernous, dark,
Got it.
chestier. It's not, and this is not always available to us. Some of us cannot do this, but you are able to negotiate that. And that's what I would recommend for you when you do need to tap into that part of your range. So we're going to use an exercise where we use the word viola, like the instrument in the orchestra. And the pattern is viola. And that's how we would do it. We're going to go up a bit so I can get
Okay.
you opened up top. But do remember, as you can, that upbeat that's coming at you, that lowers the jaw, allows the air to come in, and then phonate. So,
Viola.
don't breathe. Now.
Viola.
Good. See if that la will happen with a little bit of space between your teeth. La.
La. Viola.
Next
Okay.
one, open mouth breath. No, you're breathing already.
Well,
The whole breath has to come in this way. Otherwise, you tend to lift, and then drop when you go to
oh,
sing.
did I do that?
Mhm. Good. Let your arm rest at your side there. I'm going to do one more here. This is B major, so the top note is an F sharp. Just lots of jaw relaxation. Okay, good. So on the highest note, we're on an O vowel, right? So let that jaw accommodate that pitch like you do for your A vowel. So as you're moving on up, everything lets go for that. See if you can experience that. Yeah, right. So that jaw needs to be available to you, especially as you move up in range and up the staff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sense of oval shape as you go higher, whatever the vowel is.
Right.
Right.
And my my mouth is small, so it doesn't
Yes,
go too far. It's like, that's it.
that's plenty. But
Oh,
take advantage of that.
Okay.
Don't save it for, some special moment.
Well, I do it as I go higher. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But here we were, this is B major, so this is an F sharp. So really around E flat, E, your voice needs to already be finding that extra space.
Mhm.
Don't sort of try to keep it under wraps
Oh, no. No.
until you're forced to have to open it.
Got it.
Your breathing, which in general needs to sit lower and avail perhaps more of the center of your body, that expansion on the inhale, contraction on the exhale, but always through the mouth, so that when you do lower the jaw, you're lowering your larynx at the same time. That's why we breathe this way, so that it's always a watch. It's a way to release the jaw and a way to keep the larynx suspended in the throat. Let's try now a nice run, a little melismatic passage. Okay, so halfway up, you tend to close up your jaw. And I'm just wondering, so let's try something. Take your forefinger and just put it right in the crick of your chin. So as you go up your scale, you're going to encourage your jaw to drop. Okay? Through the mouth.
I just
Okay, but but that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Keep your shoulders down. Don't let those rise as you go high.
Mhm.
So how could we do that? You could do a plie. You could do a plie in your knees as you head up with your finger right here in the corner of your chin, the crick of your chin. So we're going to do two things. Coax the jaw to relax and do your plie. Through the mouth. Yeah. Okay. No. You're doing
Yeah,
great.
that's good. That helps.
You're really doing great.
Yeah.
I do think a mirror is going to be a really fabulous tool for you in between your voice lessons, because you'll see right away when your jaw wants to close. You'll see right away if you are rising up with the pitches as opposed to staying absolutely stable and hooked to the floor.
I realized that my knees were locking.
Oh, well, good thing that you realized.
Yeah.
The
So
more
that's
aware, that's
Right.
great. The more aware we are, the better.
Tightens up.
This exercise, I'm going to launch you a little bit higher. It's just so I can observe. It's a triplet exercise. So it does basically, okay? And we're going to try it on all different vowels. Okay, good. So you go wide for top notes, which is, perfectly viable. A lot of singers go wide. I think in your case, you will get a warmer sound if you consider that oval shape, release the jaw option. So let's see if you can, engineer that this time. It's going to mean shifting gears a little bit for you, because I can see you're used to doing things a certain way. So this is just an option. You're great coming down. You can find that shape as soon as you turn the corner. It's the ascending line where that is less available to you. So now let's try it without the plie, looking straight into the camera. Good. Okay, good. So for you, high notes tend to want to go into a horizontal shape. And I think on your own time, if you explore, that oval releasing of the jaw shape as you go higher, the sound will be a little less tight because it's going to have more room to resonate in. So I just throw that out to you as something, to think about.
Good.
Okay, so the last exercise that's kind of fun to do is a staccato exercise. So it's essentially an arpeggio, but in a sort of triplet feel. And this too, we can use all the vowels. So this is E flat. We'll start with the E, ye, and not too fast so that we can get the coordination happening. Ye again. Good, shoulders down. So whenever you feel you could use that plie, feel free. Yeah, hey, hey, hey. Okay, so let's get the mouth open for those lower pitches.
Okay.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. Woo-hoo. Good. Yeah, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
Good. Keep your feet on the floor, balls to the feet. Now we do yo, ho, ho, ho. Good, Roberta. Try with your hands free now, not on your solar plexus. So your shoulders stay relaxed. Think long neck, long, 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 long back of the neck, in fact. So, yeah, let's do the ooh. You, Make sure you give yourself space. You, Okay, good. Back to E. Okay, good. Yay. Tongue at the front of the mouth. Terrific, terrific. So relax for a second. If you had to sort of voice a goal for yourself vocally, what would it be?
Well, I guess I'm working toward it. It's just to be the very even sound all up and down my range. And as I said, I've been working on that with my teacher.
Okay.
I didn't have any middle voice for a very long time, even below an F, above middle C.
Yep.
It would be weak. So I have that better. Now it wasn't as good today, maybe, as I have been doing.
Well, but you did access it with a little nasality, which I will continue to recommend for you, is to just shift things forward rather than back. I think if I had to leave you with a few thoughts, where the consistency of sound is concerned, that can be achieved by releasing tension pretty much in your face, in your upper body, so that we're thinking of a longer column of airflow and sound. It's not just from here up.
Right.
So I would say find yourself a decent mirror, put it where you practice. Breath-wise, I suspect, that you can strengthen that expand contraction. So practicing with it through the mouth, even though that may not be your first choice, but that sense of release as air comes in and is being pulled by, diaphragm lowering, abdominals moving out of the way. Just think of your breath as coming into a lower place.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
And going higher for you will benefit from more space rather than less. And that may be something you're not always aware of, but with the mirror, you would see it instantly. So the other thing I'll just put out to you is, monitor how long a period you use your voice, speaking as well as singing, so that you're sure to balance rest with use. Take a moment to rest your voice. And on the breaks, don't talk too much.
When you're in a Berkshire week, that's a really
I know it's impossible.
Yeah.
And I talk about that too.
Yeah, the next time I go to one, I will be very careful about that, because sometimes by Thursday, you haven't got a voice. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So good, Roberta. I wish you well. I'm so glad you are actively, taking care of your voice with lessons and with, of course, regular singing. But thank you so much, for agreeing to be a part of this.
And guinea pig,
yeah. And all the best to you, with your singing as you go forward.
Thanks a lot.
Take care, Roberta. Bye-bye.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you so much for this wonderful, wonderful evening. So much good information. And it's great to see you. We haven't seen each other in so long. So, I was thinking, we all age, we all have to deal with our voices in several stages. And I was thinking about singers whom I have admired over the years and what the shelf life is. You know, it's rare that opera singers sing even into their 60s. That there seems to be, everybody's different, of course, but a cutoff. And do you find that that's often an age?
I think it's a little more common for women to stop singing in their 60s on the operatic stage or on the concert or symphonic stages. I think men, you know, get cut a little bit of a better deal and can, you know, last. I mean, people like Paul Pliszka come to mind.
Yes, right.
Even James Morris. I mean, these are people that were able to sing, have been able to sing on, but it's a little harder for women.
And lower voiced men.
Yes.
Yes, especially. And when singers retire from the opera stage, they're often still able to do concert work. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
but opera is particularly difficult and takes its real toll.
Yes, it's demanding.
Yeah. And do you find, how, can you talk a little bit about how you might work differently with your students, college age students, and then adults of varying ages?
Sure. College age students, we're, you know, those of us who are teaching that age group are building or helping them build their voices, strengthen their techniques, ground their techniques. And we're also exposing them to repertoire, all different kinds of repertoire, choral, solo, recital, symphonic, etc. Opera, of course, music theater in many cases. But those who come in to work with me as adults are looking for ways to maintain, to maintain their stamina, to maintain the skill sets that they've had for many years, and to learn ways to preserve what they have, so that they can continue for as long as it's possible.
Chris, I see do we have a question?
We do. We have a question from Susan Match. Susan would like to know, how long should the warm-up for an amateur chorus might be?
Happy to respond. Hi, Susan. I think warm-ups can accomplish many things. I think a vocal warm-up specifically to get the voice coordinated with breath and brain, I really think 15 minutes is probably enough time. But choral warm-ups, are also times for the chorus to get to know its own sound. There is also probably time for a bit of camaraderie, the classic little back rubs and all of that. So I think you have to kind of weigh what your objectives are. If they're strictly to warm up technically, 15 minutes is plenty, particularly if you then are now going to move into a 2-hour rehearsal. I'm sure Frank can speak to this also, having conducted many, many choruses.
Yes, I was going to say just about the same thing, minimum of 10, 15 if you can do it. But then the conductor may have some other goals in mind having to do with training the ear, musicianship skills, that sort of thing. But pure vocal warm-up, and it's like any other physical activity. You wouldn't jog without warming up. You wouldn't go to the gym and start off with the heaviest weights,
Exactly.
So you need to warm up.
So I mean,
the voice
it's
as well.
The typical things you want to work for are getting the brain alert, getting the body alert, getting the breathing alert, and then coordinating all of that with the produced sound. Yeah.
Another question?
We do have another question. We have a question. Mary Sue would like to know, I am particularly interested in how to control the vibrato in the older women's voice.
Mm-hmm. Good question, and always before us. I will say that the breathing, how well managed your breathing is has a lot to do with the kind of vibrato that comes out of us as we age. If you can find ways to strengthen your breath work, whether it's aerobic exercise, swimming, for example, anything that gets you breathing in a rhythmic way on a regular basis, that kind of breathing can stabilize a vibrato. There are other factors, of course, how loudly you are using your voice, or how under-energized you may be using your voice. Stamina figures into this also. But for me, it has always come down to the breathing and how solidly that is a foundation for the singer as they produce their sound.
And I think one of the dangers is, of course, that sometimes when you try to control your vibrato, you add tension.
Exactly.
And that's not what we want.
No, you don't.
Yeah. Chris, another question?
We do have another question. Carolyn Kingston would like to know, do you have any suggestions for singers who have excess phlegm as they age and, as a result, have to cough frequently?
If the coughing is really frequent, I would probably say make an appointment with your local ENT just to get it checked out. Phlegm typically is caused by dehydration. So making sure you are drinking enough water and liquids a day. If you're taking medication that does impact your mucus, you will probably have to up the amount of liquids that you are drinking. Pay attention to your speaking voice, because if you're speaking in a way that is costing your sound energy, your folds are mucus is going to collect there as a means to try to protect them. Of course, it works against us when that happens. So check in on your speaking voice. Are you speaking at a comfortable volume, at a comfortable pitch? And are you keeping water handy?
I was very interested in hearing your talk this evening about how speaking can really take its toll on, and very few of us, even those of us who have trained our singing voices, have not always made the connection with speaking, and we speak in a guttural way, or we speak too low, or and especially as you pointed out, through all the years of teaching and UCI, it really takes its toll.
Yes, it can.
Yeah, Chris.
Okay. We have a question from Gary Sutton. He would like to know, can you talk a little about how to maintain and or increase one's vocal range as we get older?
Yeah, there certainly are vocalises that you can do that can kind of push the envelope, to use a term. They can be sometimes staccato exercises that can just pop you up there briefly, that can help open that up for you. Considering what you're doing physically with your face and your jaw and your tongue, those things will also impact how you can open a range, particularly opening it to higher pitches, because of course higher pitches require more acoustic space. I think sometimes playing with different vowels, the vowel a in the word cat, for example, can sometimes access higher areas. If you're looking to find lower pitches, your rounder vowels, the O vowel, for example, can help access that. Of course, it's a little bit different for women versus men, but for men, I think just playing a little bit of Santa Claus every once in a while with the ho 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 can sometimes access lower ranges, lower tessitura.
Plus beer and cigars. as those
Yeah, well,
help
I
me.
won't.
Yeah.
I won't go there. It might work for you, but that would lower my voice.
But
Pronto.
also, I think, like you were saying, regular access and vocalizing into the areas that you want to increase will help.
Yes,
Yeah.
and doing it on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yes, another question.
All right. So Randa Kuri would like to know, are exercises for flute playing similar to the exercises for singing?
If you are asking from a breath point of view, I'm not exactly sure. But blowing into an instrument, of course the flute is maybe one of the freer instruments we can use our air with. It's through a very narrow opening. So that is a little bit different, I think.
I also want to make this, it's not quite an analogy, but point out, if you watch orchestral players, if you have an opportunity to see on television, on YouTube, and watch orchestral players, and look at the wind players and the brass players, very rarely will they breathe at the last second. We as singers almost always breathe too late. And then we're singing. And you never see a flute player who has to rest for 50 measures, do this, and then sing. They prepare. And in that, we can learn from them, I think.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with the preparation. I tell my singers to breathe in the rhythm of the phrase that they are about to sing. So instead of trying to take a hiccup breath for a 8-bar phrase that you are about to try to negotiate, I will say take that breath as if it's rhythmically part of the sound you're about to make. I'm not sure this is answering your question, but flute breathing, while it's quiet, the exhale of flute players is probably quite narrow and maybe not the same thing as it is for singers.
Yes, Chris.
Yes, Devin Bennett would like to know, do you have any suggestions on successfully singing long passages containing melismas, such as found in And He Shall Purify?
Wonderful. Love that chorus. Probably sing it differently now than I did when I was 20. I'll approach melismas rhythmically. I think you need to spend a little bit of time figuring out the patterns, figuring out the patterns within the longer pattern so that you can use rhythmic pulses to keep you propelled forward. I think in a chorus of 100 singers with a section of maybe 25 singers in each section, there is nothing wrong with leaving out a 16th note that you may need to get a breath to get right back in, rather than trying to sing the long melisma and choking by the time you get to the end, or where your voice just suddenly can't respond because there isn't enough air in there to make those folds vibrate. But rhythm, figuring out the patterns so that your energy is directed pattern-wise, and then making a little note in your score where you might just nick a little 16th note so you can get a decent breath and get right back into the pattern.
Right, don't go back then and try to recapture that.
Yes, no, you have to be
You
going
have to go
forward, obviously, but
And
yes.
I'll say at the beginning of the pandemic, of course, when we were all getting used to washing our hands a lot and using hand sanitizer, And He Shall Purify was absolutely the appropriate music, I think, for the time. It brings up a good point that, and I've said this many times in choruses that I've conducted, people have different strengths. Some have higher placed voices, some have lower placed
Yes.
voices, some voices move through melismas easier than others. I always talked about myself, and I never was very comfortable doing runs. I use the expression, I have a voice built for comfort, not for speed, But this is one of the advantages of being in the chorus. Not everybody has to do everything.
Right.
So absolutely, you leave something out. And I think we sometimes get into trouble of trying really hard to nail that passage, and we get late and tense and all of that.
I think while we're lingering on this subject here, but you can't necessarily use the same weight of sound that you might use in a lyrical passage. I Know My Redeemer Liveth comes to mind if we're going to use the Messiah, for example. So sometimes you need to lighten the sound so that you can move more easily. Thanks, Chris. Yes.
We have a question from Lauren Mayer, who would like to know what qualifications should one look for in a voice teacher?
Oh, okay. Good question. Availability, a certain willingness and skill to work with the kind of singer that is making the approach, an ear, a very good set of ears, knowledge of repertoire, perhaps knowledge of vocal issues and how to deal with them, willing to appreciate the goals that the singer has when they come into the studio to work. For some folks, money is an issue. You need to have that conversation.
And personality. Is this
yes.
someone with whom...
Is this someone you can click with?
Right. And just because you play the clarinet well doesn't mean you can help somebody else play the clarinet, somebody. But would you talk a little bit about some people like to study with someone who sings their own voice part?
Yeah.
Now, you've taught many men as well as women, and at a certain point, good singing is good singing. But do you find it different working with somebody of a soprano, since you've been a soprano?
Well, I mean, obviously I'm going to know the soprano repertoire pretty well at this stage of my life. But I don't think it's necessary for singers to work with voice teachers of their voice type. If the singer feels more comfortable doing that, I think that's fine. There was something else that I wanted to say about... No, that's okay. It'll come to me. But I guess those would be, some of the things that come up for me. I mean, I certainly had to pick and choose voice teachers. Oh, I know what it was. I don't think it's necessary if you're a woman singer, to work with a woman. I certainly had my share of male voice teachers over the years who were equally helpful to me as the female voice teachers that I had.
And something else would just occur to me, and that is getting used to, we don't hear ourselves when we sing the way somebody else hears us. So when we're studying and the voice teacher says, that's right, that's what I want, it may sound different to us, and we have to learn to trust the ears, as you were saying, of the voice teacher, and go by sensation.
Yeah, and perception. Exactly. Yep.
Yes, Chris.
All right, we have a question from Penny Brady, who says, the longer I sing, the more difficult it is to take a quick breath, even in simple hymns. I need more recovery time between breaths. Is there a remedy for this?
Well, what comes to mind first is that perhaps you need to sing shorter phrases in general, so that you don't build pressure behind the sound by the time you get to the end of your longer phrases, where it will take you longer to get enough air to sing the next phrase. Shorter phrases, perhaps, cheating in the middle of words.
And there's also a tendency, I think, when we take a quick breath, to take a breath which is too shallow and too high, rather than expanding low. And that can...
Yes, the source of your air needs to come from a very low place. I know that sounds pretty generalized, but using your abdominals, plus your rib cage, I mean, it's a whole solar plexus process.
Yes, Chris.
I think that's a great transition into our final question from Susan Hill, who asks, do you have any recommendations for physical exercise to keep the body strong and energized?
Yep. Swimming is excellent. Walking, bicycling, anything that is aerobic, in fact, that is pumping oxygen and blood throughout the body. Specifically, if you're looking to target breath exercises, there are some fun things you can do. You can pant like a dog, all different kinds of dogs, little dogs, middle dogs, big dogs. You can, practice taking large breaths and hissing out the sound over time to strengthen the musculature in your rib cages. But in general, I recommend anything that's aerobic, that just gets things moving so that you're pumping oxygen and blood to all parts of your body.
Well, that seems a great place to stop. Barbara, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
It was just fascinating, and it's wonderful to have you join us.
Oh, thank you. It's a joy to be here. Thank you, singers.